very talented actor and the most beloved bartender America has ever known. Please welcome Ted Danson.
In 1993, Ted Danson walked onto a stage and committed career suicide. What he did that night was so shocking, even Howard Stern called it insane. The room went silent. People walked out. It made headlines for months, but this wasn't his first scandal. For years, he'd been lying to everyone about who he really was. The hidden medical condition, the emotional immaturity, the affairs. At 77, he's finally revealing the truth behind the disasters that almost ended everything. And the most painful confession is not what you think. Ted Danson was born on December 29, 1947, in San Diego, but his early memories didn't come from the beaches of California. Not long after his birth, his family moved to Flagstaff, Arizona, a quiet town surrounded by mountains and ancient ruins. His father worked as an archaeologist and curator at the Museum of Northern Arizona, starting in 1959 and staying until 1975. His mother and older sister formed a small but tightly connected family. Their home life revolved around history and Native American culture. Ted grew up listening to his father talk about artifacts, watching digs unfold, and spending time around ancient sites that most kids only read about. But life at home wasn't easy. Money was tight. His father's museum job barely covered the basics. There was no television. His clothes were all hand-me-downs, often from his sister. Ted once said he looked like a ragamuffin most of the time. That kind of poverty leaves marks. Even after he became a star, Ted admitted the fear of not having enough never truly left him. He developed a strange relationship with money, describing people as tubes through which money simply passed. A survival mindset shaped by years of doing without. When Ted was 14, in 1961, his parents sent him to Kent School, a boarding school all the way in Connecticut. It was a prestigious place full of polished, wealthy East Coast kids, the kind who came from long lines of privilege. Ted arrived as a scruffy teenager from a small Arizona town, and the culture shock hit him hard. His classmates mocked his clothes, his background, and his awkwardness. He didn't fit in, but there was one place he did find confidence: the basketball court. He was good, really good. Enough that people finally noticed something other than his outsider status. Basketball became his escape, but behind that growing athletic reputation was something no one knew. Ted was born with Poland syndrome. On one side of his chest, the muscle simply never developed. It's a rare condition, mostly affecting boys, and it left him with a visibly uneven chest. In locker rooms, it made him a target. The teasing hurt, and he never forgot it. For years, he kept his condition a secret. He didn't talk about it publicly until 2000, when he told Orange Coast magazine just how deep the shame had run. Still, even with that hidden burden, he played basketball fiercely, using it as a shield to protect his self-worth. After high school, Ted somehow got into Stanford University, a fact he later joked about, saying he faked his way in. He admitted he was a terrible student, treating tests like games he could beat rather than subjects he cared about. But one random decision changed everything. He followed a girl to an acting audition, hoping to impress her. Instead, he found something that clicked inside him. He signed up for an acting class, then another. Soon, he was sleeping in his car just to stay close to the theater. He'd found his calling. During his time at Stanford, he also met Randi Gosh, a young actress born in 1950. They fell fast and married in 1970. He was 22, she was 19, but the marriage didn't last. Ted later admitted he was too emotionally immature to be a husband. The couple split in 1975. Randi, who would go on to appear in films like The Last Temptation of Christ, had her own career, but their time together marked one of many periods where Ted's ambition clashed with his personal life. Wanting serious training, Ted left Stanford and transferred to Carnegie Mellon University in 1968. Their drama program was tough, and Ted struggled with nerves. He'd have panic attacks before performances, but he stuck with it. He studied Shakespeare. He rehearsed constantly. He graduated in 1972 with a Bachelor of Fine Arts and immediately left for New York, chasing work in theater. But dreams didn't pay the bills. Ted worked odd jobs, carpentry, waiting tables, anything to survive. He lived hand to mouth, sometimes barely scraping by. These years cemented his belief that success wasn't guaranteed. He learned to work hard, stay humble, and manage his time with laser focus. All that real-world pressure seeped into his acting. When he later played blue-collar characters, he understood their fears because he'd lived them. His big break came in 1975 when he landed a role on the soap opera Somerset, playing Tom Conway. For a full year, he tackled massive amounts of dialogue daily. Soap operas are intense, fast scripts, no time to breathe, and Ted quickly learned the discipline of being camera-ready every day. But the grind also left him exhausted. He wanted something different. He didn't just want to act, he wanted to enjoy it. In 1977, he jumped to another soap, The Doctors, this time as Dr. Mitchell Pearson. Oddly enough, he had already played a different doctor on that same show just 2 years earlier. Soap operas often recycled actors like that. While these jobs helped sharpen his skills, Ted described them as feeling like a factory. He was getting better, but not more fulfilled. Everything started to change in 1978, when he landed his first movie role, a serious one. In The Onion Field, Ted played Officer Ian Campbell, a real LAPD detective who was kidnapped and murdered in 1963. The film was based on a true story, and Ted had to portray a man who actually died. It was heavy, it was tragic, it was far from the easy charm of daytime TV, but it showed what Ted could do. Critics took notice. That same year, Ted also made a guest appearance on Mrs. Columbo, starring Kate Mulgrew. It was his first step out of the soap world and into prime-time television. His performance turned heads. Casting directors saw something different in him, a mix of quiet strength and natural likability. In 1979, he booked a string of roles including The Amazing Spider-Man, BJ and the Bear, and The French Atlantic Affair. He was building a real career. Off-screen, though, his personal life remained rocky. After divorcing Randy in 1975, Ted married Casey Coates in 1977. She was a producer, and their marriage seemed more stable. But in 1979, while giving birth to their daughter Kate, Casey suffered a massive stroke. It was Christmas Eve. Ted's career was just gaining momentum, and now he was helping care for a newborn and a recovering wife. The emotional toll was enormous. They later adopted another daughter, Alexis, but their marriage would end too. In 1993, after Ted's highly publicized affair with Whoopi Goldberg. In 1982, Ted Danson walked into an audition that would change his life forever. At the time, he was just another actor trying to break through, competing against a former NFL player named Fred Dryer for the role of Sam Malone. It wasn't just a lucky break. The creators of Cheers, Glenn and Les Charles, along with director James Burrows, were looking for something specific. They wanted a charming, womanizing former Red Sox relief pitcher who now owned a bar. And they saw that in Ted. What made it more powerful was how closely the role mirrored his own background. Danson had grown up in a family that had battled addiction, and Sam Malone was a recovering alcoholic. That connection gave his performance something raw and honest. Just a few months before landing the part, he had played a hairstylist on Taxi, in an episode that aired on February 25, 1982. That brief appearance was forgotten the moment Cheers premiered later that year on September 30th. But what followed was not instant fame. In fact, Cheers was a disaster. Out of 77 shows on the air in its first season, it ranked 74th. NBC could have canceled it without a second thought. But critics saw something in it. They called it smart, well-acted, different. Against all logic, NBC kept it alive. Slowly, the tide turned. By 1986, Cheers had clawed its way into the top 10. By season 9, it hit number 1. Ted Danson's performance as Sam Malone became the heartbeat of the show, earning him his first Golden Globe nomination in 1984. And when the series finale aired on May 20th, 1993, 80 million people watched. It became the second most-watched series finale in television history. What began as a near failure became one of the greatest success stories in TV, with 28 Emmy wins from 117 nominations. And at the center of it all was Ted. Behind the scenes, though, everything wasn't as perfect. When Danson first met Shelley Long during auditions, He actually told the creators not to cast her. He was sure it would ruin the show, but that initial resistance turned into one of the most unforgettable on-screen dynamics ever. Sam and Diane's chemistry made Cheers what it was, even though their off-camera relationship was rocky. Danson would later admit their early working relationship was difficult. They couldn't even be in the same room without tension. But that friction made it to the screen, giving every scene between them an electric edge. Shelley Long left the show in 1987 after 5 seasons, surrounded by rumors. Danson later admitted she had been right for the role all along and had nailed it from day one. As the years passed and Cheers hit its stride, so did Danson's paycheck. By the later seasons, he was earning $500,000 per episode, making him the highest-paid actor on television. But all that money couldn't fix what was unraveling in his personal life. Danson later confessed that while the world saw him smiling behind a bar, he was falling apart inside. His marriage to Casey Coates was falling apart. He was having affairs. He was losing himself in the fame. When he finally decided to leave Cheers in 1993 after 11 seasons, the decision wasn't just professional, it was emotional. NBC and Paramount had expected a 12th season, but Danson told them he was done. He joked that he was making too much money, but the truth was deeper. He felt lost and wanted to prove he could do something else. He called it jumping off a cliff, not knowing if he'd ever land on his feet again. That same year, he found surprising success in film. 3 Men and a Baby had come out in 1987 and had become the highest-grossing American film of that year, earning $240 million worldwide. Danson played Jack Holden, a carefree bachelor suddenly handed a baby. It was a hit, no question, but it also boxed him in. Hollywood now saw him as the funny dad. When the sequel came out in 1990, 3 Men and a Little Lady, the magic didn't return. It made only $71 million domestically, a massive drop from the original. Ted's charm was still there, but critics couldn't stop seeing Sam Malone in every line he delivered. Slowly, his film career lost momentum. In 1993, he starred in another comedy, Made in America, opposite Whoopi Goldberg. The film made $104 million, but the headlines weren't about the box office. They were about the affair. Ted was still married at the time. The relationship with Whoopi led to a $30 million divorce, one of Hollywood's most expensive at the time. And when their romance ended in scandal just a few months later, after a disastrous Friars Club roast where Ted appeared in blackface, it marked a new low. The media turned on him. The public wasn't laughing anymore. His once clean image was damaged. But in 1996, something shifted. He starred in NBC's adaptation of Gulliver's Travels, a massive $25 million miniseries that earned him an Emmy nomination. It aired in February that year, just as he was trying to rebuild his life and career. He played Lemuel Gulliver with a quiet depth, a man lost between worlds. Critics called it his most nuanced performance. And it came at a time when he needed to show the world he was more than a sitcom star. Behind the scenes, his personal life was stabilizing too. He was now with Mary Steenburgen, whom he'd marry in 1995. Then came 1998. Steven Spielberg cast Ted in Saving Private Ryan, one of the greatest war films ever made. Ted played Captain Fred Hamill, a small role but an important one. He didn't try to steal the scene. Instead, he blended in, delivering his lines with quiet strength. It wasn't a comedy, and it wasn't a starring role, but it was Spielberg's way of saying Ted Danson could do serious drama, and do it well. The film made $482 million and won 5 Academy Awards. And just like that, Ted Danson had earned something far more valuable than fame or money. He had earned respect. Ted Danson's journey after Cheers didn't start off easy. The year before Becker aired, he tried launching a new sitcom called Inc. with his wife Mary Steenburgen, but it flopped. Then came November 2, 1998, and Becker changed everything. CBS wanted someone established to play a character who wasn't easy to like. An angry, cynical Bronx doctor with a sharp tongue and zero tolerance for stupidity. What most people didn't realize at the time was that this wasn't just a character. Danson was pouring his real-life pain into it. Behind his sarcastic smile was a man quietly battling a chronic autoimmune disease called plaque psoriasis. He'd kept it secret during his Cheers years, ashamed of the painful patches covering his body. By 2002, during season 4, Danson finally brought that pain to the screen. Writers built episodes around chronic illness, and Danson used that moment to tell the truth, not just as Becker, but as himself. It was raw, real, and ahead of its time. The show wasn't afraid to push boundaries. Back then, primetime sitcoms rarely touched topics like race, mental health, or gender identity. But Becker did, and it kept doing it for 129 episodes until its finale on January 28, 2004. It hit peak popularity in the 2000-2001 season, pulling in over 16 million viewers, ranking as one of the most watched shows on network TV. But that success came with serious friction. In 2002, 5 cast members revolted over unpaid salary increases. Terry Farrell, who played Reggie, led the charge. Within weeks, she was fired. A lawsuit followed. Production was halted, and relationships on set were never the same. Farrell was replaced by Nancy Travis, but viewers noticed the shift. Ratings dropped, and the show never fully recovered. Danson stayed out of the drama, but the tension added another layer to his growing internal battles. On paper, he was earning $300,000 per episode, with profit-sharing deals that turned him into a very rich man. But underneath the success, he was dealing with anxiety, self-doubt, and burnout that he wouldn't speak about for years. That same year, something unexpected happened. Larry David asked Danson to guest star on Curb Your Enthusiasm. At first, he didn't want to. He thought the show was terrible. But out of courtesy, he agreed to appear as a fictional version of himself. That small favor turned into a turning point. His appearance in the episode Ted and Mary connected him with a younger audience who didn't know Cheers. It was a fresh start. He returned in 33 more episodes over 12 seasons, becoming a fan favorite and transforming his public image with each scene. By being willing to poke fun at himself, he reminded people that comedy doesn't have to be clean or polished. It just has to be honest. When The Good Place premiered on September 19, 2016, it marked another evolution. This time, he wasn't just a man hiding pain behind sarcasm. He was Michael, a supernatural architect learning to become human. The role was written specifically for him, and he delivered something unexpected. Between 2018 and 2020, he earned 3 consecutive Emmy nominations. In 2018, he won the Critics' Choice Award. He was 70 years old, but his performance felt brand new. When the finale aired on January 30, 2020, it pulled in 3.7 million viewers, including replays, the best numbers the show had seen since it began. One scene where Michael confronts human mortality for the first time felt deeply personal for Danson himself. At 72, the lines between character and actor blurred again. NBC aired a follow-up special hosted by Seth Meyers that added nearly 2 million more viewers. For many, it was the most emotionally satisfying series ending they'd ever seen. Then came Mr. Mayor. It premiered in January 2021 with high hopes. Created by the same team behind 30 Rock, it had everything on paper, but it didn't connect. Reviews were lukewarm, and by May 2022, NBC canceled it after just 20 episodes. Even a holiday special in December 2021 couldn't save it. Still, Danson gave it his all. He played Neil Bremer, a retired businessman trying to prove he still mattered by running for mayor. The show gave him a chance to explore fatherhood, aging, and political absurdity, even if the audience wasn't quite ready for it. But he wasn't done. In 2025, Danson starred in A Man on the Inside, a Netflix series inspired by the Oscar-nominated documentary The Mole Agent. This time, he played a widower who goes undercover in a retirement home. It struck a nerve with audiences. The show was named one of AFI's Programs of the Year, and Danson earned yet another Golden Globe nomination, plus a nod for the prestigious Carol Burnett Award. He filmed the series with Mary Steenburgen, who played his love interest, bringing their decades-long relationship to the screen in the most tender way. At 77, Danson was still pushing himself to explore what aging really means. The show was renewed, with Season 2 set to take place on a college campus, continuing to blend mystery with meaning. And through all of it, he never forgot the ocean. Back in 1987, before Becker and The Good Place, Danson had taken his child to a Santa Monica beach, only to find a sign that said, "Water polluted, no swimming." That moment stayed with him. He founded the American Oceans Campaign with Bob Sulnick, fighting oil drilling and pollution. By 2001, it merged into Oceana, becoming the world's largest organization focused solely on ocean protection. Danson wasn't just a celebrity spokesperson. He testified before Congress, spoke at the World Trade Organization, and turned his Hollywood fame into real political pressure. In 2009, he narrated The End of the Line, a documentary warning that oceans could collapse by 2048. It stirred backlash from the fishing industry, but Danson didn't back down. He kept speaking, kept writing, and in 2011 released his book Oceana, explaining everything he'd learned and why it mattered. Even though the book didn't sell millions, it sparked TED Talks, classroom discussions, and gave everyday people a way to help. By 2015, he started appearing in environmental PSAs with Mary Steenburgen. Their teamwork went beyond TV, earning them the Bob Hope Humanitarian Award together in 2025. That same year, while celebrating his environmental work and winning acting awards, Danson did something few stars dare to do. He publicly addressed one of the darkest moments of his past. In 1993, during a roast for Whoopi Goldberg, he'd appeared in blackface and used racial slurs. The backlash was massive. Mayor David Dinkins called it shameful. Even though Goldberg defended him, saying it took courage to go that far, the moment haunted his career for decades. But instead of ignoring it, Danson used humor to acknowledge it. In recent episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm, he worked the scandal into the storyline, confronting it head-on with the same kind of self-deprecating honesty that saved his career years earlier. Ted Danson's life looked perfect in 1977 when he married producer Casey Coates. But that illusion shattered on Christmas Eve in 1979. Casey was giving birth to their daughter Kate when she suddenly suffered a massive stroke. One side of her body became paralyzed, and doctors warned she might never walk again. Ted was so shaken that he slept on the hospital floor for 3 straight weeks, refusing to leave her side. But the trauma didn't fade. It twisted their love into something confusing and painful. They argued about the stroke in strange ways. Casey would ask why he didn't stop it from happening. Ted, scared and broken, would say he didn't trust her anymore because she almost died. Even something as simple as going to a movie could end with both of them yelling in the parking lot. 16 years later, in 1993, their marriage finally collapsed. The cause wasn't just the pain from the stroke. It was Ted's affair with Whoopi Goldberg. That affair had begun during the filming of Made in America in the early 90s. It wasn't just a fling. It lasted 18 months and pulled tabloid attention like a magnet. Ted was still married to Casey when it started. When she found out, she filed for divorce, ending a marriage that had already cost them both so much emotionally. Now it cost Ted financially, too. Their 1993 divorce made headlines because it cost him around $30 million, one of the most expensive in Hollywood at the time. He would later admit he was a liar back then, someone who hadn't grown up emotionally even though he was already in his 40s. But the worst was still coming. On October 8, 1993, Ted Danson showed up at a Friars Club roast for Whoopi Goldberg, wearing blackface with a white ring around his mouth. In front of thousands of people, he used the N-word repeatedly, made graphic jokes about their sex life, and even pretended to eat watermelon. Montel Williams walked out. The room went silent. Even Howard Stern, who later spoofed the performance, would call it insane. Ted had joked before going on stage that the act would end his career, and for a moment it looked like he was right. Whoopi defended him, saying she'd helped write the jokes and even did his makeup. But the scandal exploded anyway. It dominated the news for months. It became one of the darkest moments of his life and left a permanent mark on his public image. What most people didn't know at the time was that Ted Danson had been carrying another private battle since he was 25 years old. He suffered from plaque psoriasis, a skin condition that left red, scaly patches all over his body. He was ashamed of it, so he hid it. He avoided swimming, made excuses not to wear swimsuits, and never felt comfortable in his own skin. By his 40s, it got worse. The disease spread into his joints and became psoriatic arthritis. It left him in pain constantly. He would say later that he always felt like a victim of his own body. That constant discomfort likely fed into his emotional immaturity and his inability to stay grounded in relationships. He just didn't feel right, physically or emotionally. Eventually, something had to change. After all the scandals, the pain, the divorce, and the shame, Ted Danson went to therapy, not just once or twice. He did deep work with psychologists and mentors, trying to understand why he ran from everything that scared him. It wasn't easy, but in 1994, during the filming of Pontiac Moon, he met Mary Steenburgen. They got married in 1995. This time, it was different. Ted was different. He had been forced to grow up. Their relationship was built on total honesty, no secrets, no running away. He says Mary saw him for who he truly was and stayed. Even decades later, he still calls himself lucky for finding her. In 2024, he said she had watched him grow through every stage of life. In 2025, they're being honored with the Bob Hope Humanitarian Award at the Emmys. And this year, they even starred together in a Netflix show called A Man on the Inside. Ted joked that if the show flopped, it would be her fault. But 2025 brought heartbreak too. On May 20th, his close friend and Cheers co-star George Wendt died peacefully in his sleep at the age of 76. Ted, now 77, was devastated. He said there was a huge hole in his life that he hadn't even begun to process. He got the news while working and had to hold back his tears just to keep going. What made it even harder was that he had just seen George's wife a few days earlier. The loss came out of nowhere. Their last appearance together had been just months before, in August 2024, on Ted and Woody Harrelson's podcast. That loss reminded Ted of something he's battled quietly for years: his fear of dying. In a 2024 NPR interview, he admitted that even small pains make him panic. When something hurts, he thinks, "What if I die before I finish this?" He said he lives with fear every day, but instead of letting it break him, he's learned to reshape it. He tells himself, "Thank you for this blessing," to calm the fear. Still, he carries the pain of a body that embarrassed him for years. He said he spent decades avoiding mirrors, never liking what he saw. In that same year, he finally opened up about the emotional damage his psoriasis had caused and joined a national awareness campaign to help others feel less alone. It was a big step for someone who once hid everything. Looking back, Ted Danson admitted something that stunned many people. In 2024, he said he didn't really grow up until his 40s. He called himself a liar in past relationships, a man who ran away from emotional pain. His 1993 divorce and his scandal with Whoopi had embarrassed his parents deeply. They'd had no idea what was coming. But even with all that regret, Ted said he was grateful for that messy period. It forced him to face the truth. It forced him to grow.